Welcome. I'm Angie Butler.
It's Thursday, the 5th of March 2020, and today I'll be in conversation with print and book artist Katerina Kyselica.
I wanted to start off with you to explain how you first came across print and developed your print practice.
Well, first of all, thank you for coming and for having me. I would have to start with the fact that I used to be a lawyer. So in Czech Republic, I was a lawyer. I came to the US. I completely changed my life, and I went to an art school. And still in the art school, I did not venture into printmaking. So it was only when I moved to New York that I decided to take a class in a print shop, Manhattan Graphic Center, and spend there 2 years with an excellent teacher, learning all the techniques that were available there at the time. I can't really explain why printmaking attracts me. I guess it's for the complexity, the way it allows you to think about making or art making and creativity. That's what's my attraction to print.
Yeah, and you were saying that there was one person in particular at the Manhattan Graphic Center that was important.
There's a New Yorker of an Indian origin, Vijay Kumar. He's still there if you ever go there. He's a fabulous teacher who is open and sharing. Vijay Kumar, yes.
So for those people who weren't at your talk yesterday at the university, could you give us a little bit of information about printmaking in the Czech Republic? So what background is there in print?
Yes, so this is interesting. So when I left the country, Czech Republic, I was a lawyer. I really had not much idea about art at the time. And then when I studied art during art history classes, I realized in the history of art, in the Western art, there's not much recorded about the region, what was happening there, particularly in the 20th century. I'm not only talking about art, but architecture, cubism and furniture design. And that started bothering me. So when I moved to New York, I started writing for Czech media, and vice versa for American magazines and that opened new perspective for me. And I started traveling back to Czech Republic, Slovakia, Poland, and learn about the craft, the past, as well as what is happening there today.
Is it right that printmaking kind of filters into two areas within either illustration or book art?
Correct, thank you. Yes, this is interesting as you travel and you meet artists that each country has a different system of education. In Czech Republic, for instance, in Slovakia, printmaking has been traditionally tied to illustration and book arts. And then yesterday I mentioned in Poland, for instance, I learned that in 1970s they introduced coding to visual art education for practical purposes, so that the artists can make living working on video games, etc. So that surprised me. I'm sure there are differences with other countries as well.
Mm-hmm. And what about new media? When has that been introduced within print as well in education?
Well, new media is sort of a separate discipline. The thing is that writing, particularly writing about printmaking or book arts, is not common. It's almost non-existent in the countries. So there is sort of a disconnect between, let's say, video art, and graphic art. So it is really tied to the traditional disciplines, and then the new media is a separate, usually separate department at the universities. So there is a disconnect in the terms of looking at printmaking based on the matrix and the potential of the matrix, there's a disconnect in this case. So any sort of installations that include, let's say, like mechanical reproduction, like robotic reproduction, that's part, it's not interpreted as related to the matrix or printmaking. Yeah,
So
we can discuss that. It's printmaking here.
So with your writing, you were thinking about this disparity with print in the Czech Republic and where you're based in New York. Could you tell us a little about celebrating print and how that started?
So the fact there's not really much literature writing about in English, accessible for English speakers, that bothered me. So I decided to publish a magazine in 2015. For 4 years, I worked with art historians and curators from the region. I was lucky enough to connect at least with one person from each country. I created this network, and for 4 years we were producing the magazine twice a year.
That's a big project.
That was, yes, it was a quite demanding project, but it worked very well. I mean, the magazine is placed in the major art libraries, so there's a record in English of the region's development in the medium from mid 20th century to today, and it was focused on rather critical reviews of the evolution of the printmaking, rather than focusing on individual projects of contemporary artists. So the goal was for you to really learn about when the modern printmaking began in each country. It was very ambitious, so not all countries are covered.
So do you think that fulfilled kind of gaps in knowledge in those countries then? Was that something that you felt that you were taking on with the magazine? Absolutely.
It's just a very small portion, but it's there. It is complicated because of the language, variety of the language. So to get to the sources in each country, yes, it's very complicated.
So to start talking about artist books and print, can you tell me about how you started to think about artist books within your practice?
I think there are sort of there were two impulses. First of all, I love books, literature, since I was little. I also have this vision when I'm going to retire. I have dreams already about my retirement. It's going to be in a huge library. I'm sitting on the floor just smelling the books. So this is my idea. It sticks with me. And then second is, and I think we talked about it earlier, living in New York, expensive city. It is a way for me not to be tied to a studio. So I have temporary studios occasionally and carry it with me when I travel all the time, so I can work anywhere on these books. And I think a third thing is that I also have a sense of space, and I am a builder. I construct my works, whether they are drawings or paintings. It is usually constructed from smaller units to the whole. And the book, with its potential for complexity and the space for problem solving, which you have to do from all points of views, that intrigues me and attracts me.
So thinking about it architecturally.
Always. And also then it's very intimate. I always think about that one user of the book. It is really for that one person. It's like having yeah, you do not. I do not think about displaying about the gallery. Right today, we create the artwork. We think about the gallery, how it is going to be presented. Whereas for the book, I always think about that one person that will receive it as a gift or anything. Yes.
Thinking about that one person as well, your books are unique objects,
Yes.
which I think is something important to talk about, rather than they're not produced in an edition.
Yes. And I'm not saying it will not happen. As you can see, there's not much printing. They're not really made printed. It is possibly because I make living as a graphic designer, and I make publications, and they might be screen printed. So I think for my personal practice, I try to distance myself to make a line from the printed matter.
So in graphic design work, you might be producing
Yes.
quite a number of something.
And printing, dealing with all things related to printed matter. I think at the moment, I'm not saying that it will not change, but at the moment, also because of the traveling and everything, I can do these books anywhere, and they're very precious.
And I guess with graphic design, you have a brief and you carry that out very methodically.
Yes.
But when you're creating a unique book, are you led by how that book develops?
Yes. And seriously, I always think about the one person. I often think about giving it somebody. So although I don't give it to anybody, it is meant as a gift in a way, yes.
You have done commission work, so I wondered whether we could talk about field notes, and from that to talk about Poppy as well, the work that you actually commissioned for.
Yes, so a couple of years ago I do communications for a foundation called Václav Havel Library Foundation. Václav Havel was a playwright and president of the Czech Republic, philosopher, and this is a literary award. And I've been working with a client for a while, and then she learned about my work, and she approached me. She said, "Why don't you make a book as an award?" And it worked. It was like a gift from me to the person, the writer, who is a writer in exile. So it's somebody persecuted by government. Again, a unique object that I made. So I made a field notes a couple of years ago. Actually, both books are field notes. So it's my writing in visual form to a writer. And then and this is how it works, I believe, for everyone. That also informed my own work, because it were unique objects, and then I missed them, so I had to create a couple of them for myself. Yet they were not copies. I moved on with that. So a couple of books here are sort of like a follow-up of the commissions that I worked on with the client. So I've heard that when I did interviews with other artists, illustrators, that often the commission work pushes them to develop something new. It's actually an impulse. It could be an impulse. Like for me, my work, graphic design work, doesn't generally trigger much, but these commissions did.
And I guess that if you're making a single book to give away, rather than if you're making an edition of artist books, you would normally keep one yourself.
Correct.
Anyway, so
Yes.
you would have it.
Yes.
Whereas if you're just making one unique book and giving it away, there's no surprise that you kind of feel quite bereft in
Yes,
that
I
sense
missed it.
after giving it away. So wanting to revisit that again by making something else is an interesting idea in that sense.
Yeah.
So could we go on to thinking about commentaries on the art world with News About Nothing? The first work that I did was this
scroll-like piece that includes. I was printing a project at the time, so these are cut remaining parts of the prints. You know, I often work with material that I found. It triggers an impulse. It provides some limits for my thinking. So in this case, it informed the width of this scroll that includes texts or cutouts from newspaper, from New York Times from the art section. You know, we have like weekend arts and arts and leisure. And I felt at the time I was very busy with the other work, and I felt like I only have time for the weekend. So like my art is the art and leisure, and I kind of enjoyed it at the time. But it includes, and I will let you look at it, because my work always has text in it. It's not a poetry, it's a play with words, but they do make sense in some. It's more like a Dada play with the words, where you contradict, one word contradicts itself. I also often use, I love languages, so there's often French, Czech, English, maybe Spanish next time. It is, in this case, a commentary on art word as a art business word at the time, with a little bag where you can carry all these thoughts about art and the numbers in the bag, the way you buy in the museum, the posters, and you take them with you home. Also, the height of it is my height, you know. So this is like completely my commentary on the art world. So please feel free, look at it. It's quite, you don't have to worry about.
Can we pass the back
tensions.
around?
And
Because that's really nice. Yeah.
So again, there's handwriting too. But it's not a complex construction, for instance, in the text.
Thinking about another work, the Home series that you made,
Yes.
I wondered whether you could talk about, because of the materiality
Yes.
of that piece going on to the next one, what triggers your impulses, and also how materials inform what you will then go on to create.
So for this series, I found a paper. Somebody in the print shop left a stack of paper that was really tactile. It has texture, you will see. And you know, I had to have it. And that, at the time, I was making lino cut with the motif of a house, of home. So that triggered this project called Home. It has 3 books. And the basis for it is are pages from a book. I often use that. You will see they're collaged on the boxes, covers. I love, it's like underpainting for me. And it also carries the content of the book that I use. So there are 3, and one is Nicholas and Alexandra, the life of the Tsar, the family that was killed, 1917, 18, sorry, somebody correct me. Anyway, the communists killed them, right, the whole family. So this is one story I want the viewer, the reader, to think about. Family, home, in this case, family executed, family leaving the homeland, running away, and where is the home, and who has the right to tell you where is your home. But you won't find, it's not explicit in the book. It's just, once you learn that I use the book for the background. It is for me to carry some narrative or decide on the motives that I'm using in the book. So for this series I also use lino cut. I think that's the only book that I use printmaking. The second book uses book American Colonies. So it is a commentary on America, and again the question of where is home for whom, the struggle of it. And again I use symbols and motifs to hint on the content, but it is not the primary thing for you. I want you to enjoy the textures, the format, and explore it from every side as accordion allows to do.
As we're starting to pass round books,
Yes.
I'd like you to talk to us about the involvement of the viewer, of the reader of the book in your work, and how you think of that. The text, the way that it's used. You said of suggestion rather than direction.
Correct. So my books for the moment are not bound. There's no really sequence of the visual elements of the text. I like you to create within the framework of my idea, for you to create or recreate the story or the image or reconstruct the compositions. So I do enjoy this playful element. It's not a game, but I want you to get involved in recreating or creating your own story, finding your own story in it. So,
And I guess everyone brings their own stories to books anyway, don't they?
To any art, as a viewer, you always bring your values, your perceptions. There's a psychology science behind it, how you view the work. So I have an idea. I'm giving the background, it's like a playground for me. So I'm putting the game on the table, and I want you to find it for yourself, whether you want or not.
Have you ever been in a position with people looking at your books, being able to know what they think about them?
I have. They are. There's always a smile. There's always a smile. So they are playful. The playfulness is discovered always by the audience. It is a little bit difficult in gallery space because often you're not allowed to touch it. So that's the part with the book, to how to exhibit it. So this is very special to actually, for me, to see you looking at the books.
Yes, you can see how someone interacts and responses.
Yeah, and find their way around. And it's like any book, right? Even if it's the standard codex form, where, I mean, it takes you a while to read a story. So this also requires the time. I mean, you can just flip and see that you like it, but there are many, not hidden, but there are many elements that require you to spend time with it.
Yes.
So, yes.
Yes.
As any book, any other book.
You were saying I think it's
the Russian.
Lenny has, yes, there's tiny envelopes within the book.
Yes, there are houses collaged, and actually you can pull the roofs, the tops. Yes, so you can you can just like, and it casts shadows then, right? So and then you close it and it flattens it, but they are meant to be touched. Yes, yeah.
So really, it functions on many levels.
Yes.
In the sense that the more you interact with it,
Yes.
the more you get out of it. In that way. So
Correct.
in that sense, it's a very sophisticated piece of work.
I think, I mean, that's what intrigues me about books, the complexity, that there's like endless space for creativity on any level. Construction, story, visual elements, I just do love the pieces that opens up. You don't know where they're going to lead you to.
Well, maybe that would be good then to go on to talk about Halo in that respect.
Correct.
Thinking about how we interact with books and
So I'll take it down.
exhibit them too.
So Halo is a 2018 work, fairly recent project, and it's drawing that I can fold and take anywhere, of course. And I named it a halo because I feel like I deserve a halo after drawing for hours, so there's no other meaning to it. It wasn't in the beginning, but later, as with any work, so the drawing is sort of like a background, again, like an underpainting, and then the text comes in, and I connected. I knew it would be halo right away again, but then the life brought some changes to my life, and I started thinking about women, she, and the she entered the story in it, and it hasn't left me ever since. So I'm gonna again let you look at it. There is text again in the white spaces in the drawing that hint on some connection between the halo and she. And the text is composed in the way that allows you, again, to make sense of it. It's not she and the halo or anything. You have to enter the book and think about, basically reflect on your experiences and think that's the goal of it.
How long were you travelling with Halo?
This is a series that has been going on for probably 3 years. It's still open. It's not closed. This is just one book, and as you can see, it works also as a wall piece. It's meant to be for the viewer, for the buyer, for the owner to decide how you have it in your home, how you treat it. You can have it in your library, or you can put it on the wall. I do think about the recipient that way. I would like to give them an option how they treat the ownership of the piece in a way. And also has this reminiscence of a tablecloth in a way, again, and there is a sound to the paper. So I want you to hear it, to touch it, to fold it like a tablecloth, and then hopefully sit down and discover the text in it and fold it back.
And with travelling, obviously, print with presses, etc., is too difficult if you're mobile or if you're disconnected from your home base.
Yes.
Did that have an element of why drawing?
For me, the drawing is very meditative. This is something I don't have to think about. It's like automatic writing in a way. So when I need to unplug, I go for 6 hours a day, 7 hours, just drawing straight. There's no planning. Whatever happens.
So is it a way to kind of bring you back to yourself?
Yes, yeah, it is very meditative.
So wherever you are, you can have a sense of yourself through this process.
I can do it in a coffee shop. I forget about the crowd. That's how it works for me. And again, I think of it as an underpainting, so then I take it and make something of it, a book or a book.
Do you see it ending at all?
Not for the moment, no. It's like, for me, the projects, it's like eating chips. You know, like you keep eating, and then you get tired of it, and that's it. That's when usually the project is over.
Too much of a good thing.
Too much. It's a personal satisfaction in the process that is important for me.
We're really starting to understand our role within your work. Did you want to talk about this piece a bit more?
This is a recent piece. It's called For Me, For You, For Me and You. 3 books. It's what triggers sometimes or inspires me, or no, it's more like a trigger rather than inspiration. There is a tale, a fairy tale in the Czech Republic that king gives an advice to his son, and he says he spreads bread in half, and he stores the half, and he tells the son, giving him 1/4, so half of that half. He says, "This is for today," sharing it with the son, and we have to think about tomorrow, so we have to store that. And just this moment of him sharing and splitting and sharing, that somehow emerged in my mind and inspired. I wanted to make a piece that I could share with you, with the viewer. So there are 3 boxes, right? For Me. For Me has these 2 compositions, and I made this for myself. And then for You, I'm giving you visually more, although it is the same amount of material, kind of thing. So I'm giving you 4 compositions. And then for both of us, I'm giving us to enjoy 8 compositions, or 8 little cards. So there is no narrative. It's something that drives my process, my creative process. They are made of cardboard. I also like making something out of nothing, so that I could have these books without anything else. And again, I also made it so that the owner, the recipient, can hang it on the wall as they wish, in any direction, and create their own composition on the wall, or keep it in the box in the library. And another layer I'm adding is the text again, that is in the back. You can look at it, you don't have to, but if you do, I want you to discover another layer of a message, or another message that I'm putting into this book. And again, her and she and her thoughts is creeping into the work. So this, again, very playful, where you can compose a meaning of it as you wish. Also, individually, you can still enjoy some message in the book. Yes.
Thank you.
And another, so for this one, I also used, of course, a book with some content, and it's from the book The Age of Innocence. So you can connect it with she and the story on the back of it, because it adds another layer of meaning in it.
One thing I was just thinking of as well is how these materials age and change over time, and handling. Is that something that you're conscious of when you're making the work?
So sometimes I coat the paper. I try to conserve the current state, the color that it has. Sometimes I play with that. So I can make some pieces. I can keep some pieces untreated, and then I'm assuming they will yellow, and there's going to be another layer of surprise over the years. So yes, I do. But these pieces are meant to be touched and played with.
It would be really nice just to hear your experience that you've been working with CFPR on a project here. If you could just tell us, I know it's in progress at the moment.
In the beginning.
Yes, if you could tell us about your experience so far.
So I've been here just for a week, but I wanted to start translating the Halo project, or continue it in printmaking, with the idea to use the matrix as a sort of stamping tool to build up a larger composition with the word halo incorporated or becoming a repetitive element in the composition, either maybe embossed so it whispers, you won't really notice it, or maybe I will continue with collage, and this is an example where it is so far. It's sort of elementary. The print itself, in a way, serves again as an underpainting for me, and then then I will take it. I will see where it. I do not generally have a preconceived idea of what I want to achieve. So it's in the process when it happens for me.
You're reacting to
Yes,
what?
yeah, exactly. Yep.
It's interesting the way that you talk about sound in your work.
Well, it comes from the material. For me, it is. Yeah, it's like the complete whole: the sound, the touch, the visual, and then the reading of it.
So it's using all ourselves, our
Absolutely,
whole selves,
yes.
to read the work.
Yes. Yes. Even when you touch and open the boxes, right, I could have chosen a different coating, but I did this one particular. So I want you to hug the book. This is another field note that I created after one of those commissions. And this one has a set of drawings that have text added with typewriter. So in the sort of like in line with concrete poetry trends, 70s, 60s way. But I also provide, in this case, in the colophon, I provide a guide for you. This is the way it was designed. It's sort of a poem, and when you read it, I love reading it loud because there is a rhythm to it too. So I love playing with it, and it gives you a guide how to arrange these drawings next to each other, or how to proceed as you go through. However, these are totally up to you. When you like one drawing over the other, you change the sequence of the words, and you create your own poem. Let's call it poem text. There it is. So let's say it's the flow, the run, the stream to break, a noise it seems you fool to make, the flow to slow the run, a voice, the cry to tear apart, the noise, the rush to break away, flip the coin, And the last drawing that says flip the coin is actually double-sided. So you flip it and there's a coin again. So there's, again, the playfulness in it, in a way.
So could we have anyone's comments about what reading and having a look at Katerina's work? Do you find the work easy to engage with? Or?
Yeah, it's very sensual, isn't it?
Yes.
When you work through it. This one's almost like an instrument. You know those ones that you wrap the wood up and down the whole thing, because it feels like you can't open it without making noise. And here I'm trying to be quiet, but
It's okay, we can pick it up.
Yes, yeah.
So any questions anyone has for Katerina, or to finding out more about her work, or anything in particular?
I've got one because I was thinking about yesterday's talk as well. There are elements that you can draw out that you would identify yourself as a Czech artist, or it's not really relevant because your art career started when you moved to the States?
I don't think I identify myself as a Czech artist. Yes, I do not feel connection in that area to Czech art scene or sort of tradition or the history, the 20th century. I am sure there is within me something that imprints in it that you could trace back. For instance, these collages that I use with the book pages, there is a wonderful Czech artist, 1960s, 70s, Jiří Kolář, very well known in Western Europe. Very intellectual, wrote poetry and made his whole life collages. And he actually created a dictionary of collages, of different types of collages, like prolage. And this one, I mean, I'm not saying, I'm sure he called, I think, chiasmash or something like that. Anyway, so like this is an element that I carry from that, from getting to know that art scene or the art history through it. I just appropriated it, yes. But it's for me, well, he used it in a different way, yes. I'm not doing there's different reasons for it. But I do not identify myself with Czech art. That's interesting, yeah.
I wouldn't have thought of it unless I'd heard your talk yesterday.
Yes, yeah, no.
It's just a comment. Well, yeah, thank you, Katerina, for coming and all of that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
But I think when you talk about the construction of the book, you know, and the narratives and how you can find your own story on it. Well, I saw you installing the cases, and now how you uninstall it and
Yeah.
just turning it around. So
Yeah.
I think I enjoy how kind of those cases become a book in itself, and then you put like all of the pages together in the narrative, and now you kind of unfold it, you know, for the audience and let it travel around,
Yeah.
like around practice, right? Traveling around
Yes.
and make all of the pages together and go back to the case. So I think it was very interesting kind of analogy of your process, what is happening right now
Yeah.
with exhibition as a whole book.
And it's like right now, it's like completing it, like this is the right setting where this is like the books are not completed without the interaction of the viewer,
Yes.
of the reader.
Then all is left to do is to say thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk with us. We all really appreciate you sharing so personally your practice with us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here.